Captain Elias West stood in the command center of the human outpost, eyes fixed on the large screen in front of him. The blinking red lights on the monitor indicated an incoming alien threat. Elias had seen many dangers before, but nothing like this. The alien ships appeared on the edge of the colony's atmosphere, their dark shapes looming like predatory beasts. The calm that had once settled over the colony now seemed like a distant memory. A moment ago, everything had been peaceful. But now, the planet was under attack. "Captain West," came the voice of Lieutenant Carter through his earpiece. "The outer defenses are down. We need to evacuate now." Elias's heart raced, but he didn't move. Instead, he watched the images on the screen. The alien ships were circling, a dark swarm in the sky. But there was something else, something strange. Among the chaos of the incoming attack, he saw figures running through the smoke and dust. Children. "Where are they going?" Elias muttered to himself. His mind immediately focused on the children. They were running toward the ruins of a nearby building, clearly in danger. The children were small, no older than 8 or 9, and they had the look of someone unfamiliar with human weapons and warfare. They were alien with long, dark eyes and skin that shimmered in hues Elias had never seen before. "They shouldn't be out there," Elias whispered. He turned to Carter, his voice firm. "I'm going after them." Carter hesitated. "Captain, the evacuation is priority." "I know, but I can't leave them there." Without waiting for approval, Elias grabbed his rifle and sprinted toward the exit. The sound of laser blasts and the hum of alien engines filled the air as the battle raged outside. But Elias's focus was entirely on the children. They were more important than anything else. His boots pounded against the cracked streets as he raced toward the building. Dust swirled in the air, and the heat from the nearby explosions made the ground shimmer. He could see the children now, their small figures darting through the debris, panic evident on their faces. They didn't understand what was happening. Elias reached the building just as a blast of energy from a passing ship sent part of the structure crumbling. The children screamed in fear, but Elias didn't hesitate. He dashed forward, diving through a hole in the wall just in time to shield them from falling debris. "Stay close," Elias commanded, his voice gentle but firm. The children looked up at him with wide eyes, unsure but trusting. He offered a quick smile, then scanned the area. They were in a crumbling ruin with no clear path to safety. Elias's heart raced, not only because of the danger around them, but also because he knew he had to move fast. "Are there more of you?" he asked quickly, turning his attention to the group. There were 4 children in total, huddled together and shaking, but they all looked lost and scared. One of the older ones, a girl no older than 10, nodded shakily. "They're all gone." "Our parents." She trailed off, her eyes filling with tears. Elias felt his chest tighten. He couldn't imagine losing his parents, not in a situation like this. But there was no time for grief. He had to keep them safe. His mind raced, calculating every possible route to escape. But there were too many enemies surrounding the colony. The only way out was back toward the base where there was some hope of reinforcement. "Come on," Elias said, crouching down and motioning for the children to follow him. "We're going to make it through this. Stay close and don't make any noise." Elias led the children through the maze of ruined buildings, keeping a watchful eye out for any signs of the enemy. Every corner was a potential danger, but Elias's experience as a soldier kicked in. He knew how to stay calm in a crisis, how to think 2 steps ahead, and right now his priority was the children. Their lives depended on him. As they moved through the wreckage, Elias's mind never stopped calculating. He had to find a way to get them to safety, but as he turned another corner, his heart nearly stopped. A group of alien soldiers was blocking the path ahead. They were tall, with dark, slick armor that shimmered in the dim light. Their weapons were raised, scanning for any survivors. Elias didn't hesitate. He pulled the children to the side and pushed them into a nearby alcove, hiding them behind some metal debris. The children pressed close, frightened but silent. Elias looked around, his mind searching for an escape route. There was a narrow alleyway to the right. It was risky, but it was their best chance. He took a deep breath, then turned to the children. "Stay here and don't move until I come back," he whispered urgently. The girl nodded, her face pale with fear. Elias could see the terror in her eyes, but she trusted him. That trust gave him the courage he needed. He grabbed a grenade from his belt, checking it quickly before making a run for the alley. The alien soldiers didn't notice him at first. He moved swiftly, silently, blending into the shadows of the ruins. He pulled the pin from the grenade, tossing it toward the soldiers just as they turned in his direction. The explosion rang out, deafening in the quiet chaos, throwing the soldiers off balance. Elias didn't waste a second. He dashed toward the alley, barely dodging a shot that came too close for comfort. His heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't stop. The alley was narrow and winding, the perfect place to lose their pursuers. Minutes later, Elias found a small gap in the alley wall, just big enough for him and the children to squeeze through. He quickly led them to the opening, breathing a sigh of relief when he saw the path ahead was clear. "Come on, this way," Elias urged, motioning for the children to follow. The path led toward a hidden access tunnel that would take them to the safer part of the colony. As they reached the tunnel entrance, Elias turned to check for any signs of pursuit. They were safe for now, but he knew the danger wasn't over. The enemy would soon be searching for them, and Elias would have to fight to keep them alive. Elias led the group of alien children through the narrow access tunnel, his heart still pounding from the close call with the alien soldiers. The tunnel was dark, lit only by flickering emergency lights mounted on the walls. He could hear the soft footsteps of the children behind him, their breath shaky but steady. He kept moving, his thoughts racing. They were safe for now, but the feeling of dread still lingered in the air. The enemy had attacked with force and the colony was in chaos. The thought of leaving the children behind and going back to the battlefield gnawed at him. But he couldn't do it. Not when he had already made a promise to protect them. The children walked quietly, their small hands gripping his jacket as they followed closely. Elias could feel their fear, but he knew they trusted him. He had done everything he could to keep them safe. But now they needed a place to hide. The emergency shelter was ahead, a secure underground base designed to protect civilians from attacks. They would be safe there, at least for a while. As they reached the shelter's entrance, Elias pushed the button that opened the heavy steel door. The door slid open with a loud clank, revealing a dimly lit room. Inside were a few human soldiers and colonists, huddled together waiting for the all-clear signal. When they saw Elias and the children, they stepped forward, surprised and concerned. "Captain West, what are you doing with them?" asked one of the soldiers, his voice full of disbelief. "They're with me now," Elias replied quickly, not giving the soldier time to question him further. "They need to be protected." The soldier nodded, though his eyes flicked between the children and Elias, clearly confused. But Elias wasn't in the mood to explain. He just needed to make sure the children were safe. "Take them to the back room," Elias instructed one of the soldiers. "Keep them there until I return. Don't let anyone in." The soldier nodded and guided the children into the back room. Elias watched them go, then turned and headed back toward the tunnel entrance. He still had unfinished business. Just as Elias was about to step back into the dark tunnel, a voice stopped him. "Captain West." He turned to see a figure stepping out of the shadows. A woman. Her skin shimmered in the dim light, a soft glow around her that seemed unnatural. Her long hair cascaded down her back, and her sharp features were cold and regal. It was her, Queen Zaretha, the ruler of the alien species whose children Elias had just protected. Elias had heard of her, of course. Every soldier knew of the infamous alien queen. Zaretha was known for her intelligence, her strength, and her unyielding power. She commanded respect from every corner of the galaxy, and now she was standing before him. "You're the queen?" Elias asked, his voice a mix of surprise and suspicion. He had expected a grand reception, but this was different. She was here in the same shelter as the children. Zaretha's eyes locked onto his, her gaze steady and unblinking. "I am. And you, Captain West, are the one who saved my offspring." Elias swallowed, unsure of how to respond. There was something intimidating about her presence, something beyond just her physical beauty. She radiated power as though the room bent to her will. Yet Elias stood his ground. He had faced many dangers, but this was different. He wasn't just dealing with an enemy. He was face to face with a queen, someone who commanded entire worlds. "You don't owe me anything," Elias said, though his voice lacked the confidence he wanted. He wasn't sure what kind of repayment she sought, but he wasn't interested in power or politics. His mission was simple: keep the children safe. Zaretha stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "I do owe you, Captain West. My children owe you their lives. And for that, I offer you something more valuable than gold or power." Elias narrowed his eyes, confused. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head slightly, a small smile playing on her lips. "You saved my children. You risked your life for them. Few beings in the galaxy would do such a thing for an alien species they know nothing about. I didn't do it for you. Elias replied, his voice firm. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Zaretha's smile widened slightly, though there was something almost knowing in her eyes. And that is why I respect you. You have honor, something rare in this galaxy. Elias wasn't sure how to respond to that. Honor was something that had been drilled into him from a young age, something that kept him going in the darkest of times. But this was different. He was not a hero, nor did he want to be seen as one. He was just a soldier doing his duty. You should leave now, Elias said, his voice clipped. The children are safe. We've done what we needed to do. Zaretha's expression softened, her gaze still locked onto him. I cannot leave just yet, Captain West. I came to thank you, yes, but I also came to offer you something in return for your bravery. Elias raised an eyebrow. And what is that? She stepped even closer, her voice a low whisper. I offer you my protection. My resources. My alliance, Elias frowned. I'm not interested in making deals. I'm here for the children, nothing more. Zaretha's smile remained, though her eyes darkened with something more intense. It's not a deal, Captain. It's a gift. You protected my offspring. Now I refuse to let you go. You will stay here with me whether you like it or not. Elias's heart skipped a beat. Was she threatening him? Or was this some form of diplomacy he didn't understand? He took a step back, his mind spinning. He had no intention of staying in this alien world, surrounded by creatures he barely understood. His mission was to return to his own people, to ensure that his world was safe. But Zaretha's words haunted him. I'm not your prisoner, Elias said firmly. Zaretha's gaze softened. No, you are not. But you owe me, Captain West. And I intend to make sure you stay. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, and for the first time Elias realized that he might be in more danger than he ever imagined. Elias lay on the narrow cot inside the shelter, his eyes staring at the ceiling. The soft hum of the ventilation system was the only sound in the room, a quiet reminder of the world around him. The children, safe for now, were resting in the back room, but Elias couldn't shake the unease in his chest. Zaretha's words echoed in his mind. She refused to let him go. She had offered her protection and her resources, but the way she said it made it clear. This was more than just a simple offer. Elias was no fool. He had seen the power in Zaretha's eyes, the quiet confidence that commanded respect. There was something about her, something beyond just her beauty and authority. She was a queen and she expected loyalty. He had done his duty. He had protected her children. But now he was caught in a strange web, one he didn't fully understand. Elias had always been a soldier, someone who followed orders, someone who lived by the code of honor. But in this alien world, honor meant something different. Zaretha wasn't just another leader to obey. She was someone who saw something in him, and that made him uncomfortable. A soft knock on the door broke his thoughts. Elias stood up quickly, instinctively reaching for his rifle, but he stopped himself. It was a habit, one that had saved his life many times. He made his way to the door and opened it. There, standing in the doorway, was the girl from earlier, the one who had been closest to him in the chaos. Her name was Nira, and she looked no older than 10. She had big, curious eyes, the same dark shimmer to her skin that all the alien children had. She held a small object in her hand, something that looked like a piece of jewelry, but Elias wasn't sure. Captain, she said, her voice soft but steady. I want to thank you. Elias crouched down to her level, surprised by the seriousness in her tone. You don't need to thank me, Nira. You and your friends are safe now. She shook her head, a small smile on her lips. Not just for that. She held up the small object in her hand. This is for you. Elias took it gently, his eyes scanning the strange shape of the object. It was smooth, almost like stone, with intricate markings on it. It wasn't like anything he had seen before. The object seemed to glow faintly in the dim light of the room, and when he touched it, he felt a strange warmth spread through his fingers. What is this? He asked, looking at Nira. It's a gift from my mother, she explained. She wanted you to have it. Elias frowned, uncertain. Your mother? But I thought, she knows what you did for us, Nira interrupted, her voice firm. She knows you saved us. This is for you to show you that we are grateful. My mother never forgets kindness. Elias stood up, the weight of the small object in his hand feeling heavier than it should. I didn't do it for a gift. I know, Nira said softly. But she insists. Elias looked down at the glowing object, feeling the warmth of it in his palm. He wasn't sure how to respond. He wasn't used to receiving gifts, especially from someone as powerful as Zaretha. She was a queen, and yet here he was, being offered something from her daughter. The gesture felt personal. "Thank you, Nira," Elias said finally, tucking the object into his jacket pocket. "I'll keep it safe." Nira smiled again, her eyes bright with innocence. "Good, I hope you'll stay. My mother, she likes you." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. He didn't know how to respond. How could he stay? How could he leave Earth behind and pledge loyalty to an alien queen no matter how powerful she was? But Nira's words stayed with him as she left the room, closing the door softly behind her. Later that evening, as the stars began to twinkle outside the shelter's small windows, Elias sat in the corner of the room, deep in thought. The children were asleep, and the soldier who had helped him earlier kept watch outside. Elias knew he had to make a decision soon. Zaretha had made her intentions clear. She wanted him to stay, to be part of her world. But Elias wasn't sure if that was the life he wanted. The thought of returning to Earth to his fellow soldiers kept him awake. There was a war back home, a battle for survival. He couldn't just forget that. But the more he thought about Zaretha's offer, the more complicated everything seemed. She wasn't just another ruler. She was someone who had saved her people time and time again. She had led her species through countless battles and had emerged victorious. But it was more than that. Elias had seen the vulnerability in her eyes, the way she cared for her children. He saw a side of her that no one else had seen, a side that was kind and protective. He couldn't ignore that. The soft sound of footsteps brought him back to reality. Elias looked up, surprised to see Zaretha standing in the doorway. She looked different than before, less regal and more human. Her dark hair was pulled back and her usual armor was replaced by a simple robe, one that seemed to flow around her like water. She didn't have the same intimidating presence she had when they first met. Now she looked tired, vulnerable even. "You're still here," Zaretha said quietly, her voice softer than Elias had ever heard it. "I thought you'd have left by now." Elias didn't know what to say. I'm not sure where to go." Zaretha stepped into the room, her eyes searching his face. "You don't have to leave, Elias. I meant what I said. I don't want you to go." Elias stood up slowly, unsure of what to do. Her words caught him off guard. She was so certain, so confident in her request, and yet there was a hint of something else in her eyes, a vulnerability that Elias had never expected to see from someone like her. "I don't belong here, Zaretha," he said, his voice heavy. "I have a life back home, a purpose there." "I understand," Zaretha said softly. "But sometimes our purpose changes. Sometimes we find new paths, ones we never expected." Elias met her gaze, seeing the honesty in her eyes. She wasn't just offering him protection. She was offering him a chance at something else, something different. He didn't know if he could accept that. "I need time to think," he said finally. Zaretha nodded, her expression softening. "Take all the time you need. But remember, Elias, you'll always have a place here with me." As she turned to leave, Elias stood frozen in place. He was torn, stuck between two worlds, his duty as a soldier and the unexpected connection he felt to this alien queen. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. His life was never going to be the same again. The days that followed were filled with quiet uncertainty. Elias spent most of his time in the shelter, keeping watch over the children, ensuring their safety while they rested in the underground hideout. Zaretha had given him space, allowing him to reflect on the decision that now weighed heavily on his heart. But no matter how much time he spent thinking, the answers were never clear. The children had come to rely on him, and Elias found himself growing attached to them. They would ask him to tell stories of his homeworld, of Earth, and he would gladly oblige. Their eyes would widen in awe as he spoke of his planet's forests, oceans, and cities, things so different from the strange alien world they called home. He'd never thought that sharing his past could feel so comforting, but there was something about these children that made it feel right. Elias wasn't sure how much longer he could stay in this place, caught between two worlds. Zaretha had been patient, giving him the space he needed, but there was no escaping the tension that lingered between them. She had offered him everything: protection, alliance, a place at her side. But Elias wasn't sure if he could accept it. Her words from the other day echoed in his mind. "You'll always have a place here, with me." He didn't know what it meant yet, but he could feel the weight of it. Zaretha didn't just want him as a protector for her children. She wanted him to be part of her world, part of her life, and that was a responsibility that Elias wasn't sure he was ready for. The thought of leaving crossed his mind often. He could return to Earth, resume his duties with his fellow soldiers, and continue the fight back home. But every time he thought about it, his heart pulled him back to Zaretha and her children. They had become important to him, more than he had expected. One evening, as Elias walked through the shelter's dimly lit halls, he found himself standing before the door to Zaretha's chamber. The soft glow from the crack beneath the door caught his attention. He had been avoiding her, unsure of how to approach the subject of his departure. But something inside him knew that this was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment to make a choice. Elias hesitated, his hand resting on the door handle. He was about to turn away when the door opened, and there she stood. Zaretha, her eyes soft but knowing, as if she had been waiting for him. "You've been avoiding me," she said, her voice calm but with a hint of sadness. "Why?" Elias sighed, stepping into the room. "I'm not avoiding you, I need to think, Zaretha. There's too much at stake. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do." Zaretha closed the door behind him, her gaze never leaving his face. "You don't have to make a decision right away," she said gently. "But I need to know what's in your heart, Elias. I need to know if you're willing to stay." Elias felt the weight of her words. He had thought about this moment 100 times, but now that it was here, he felt unsure. "I can't just stay here and pretend like everything is fine. I have a life back home. I have responsibilities. I can't just abandon that." Zaretha nodded slowly, as if she understood. "I know your world is different from mine. I know that you have your duties, your own people to protect. But you've already done more for us than anyone could ever expect. You've already proven yourself." "I didn't do it for rewards," Elias replied, his voice steady. "I did it because it was the right thing to do." Zaretha's eyes softened. "And I respect that. But I'm asking you, Elias, what do you want? Do you want to return to Earth, or do you want to stay here with us?" Elias ran a hand through his hair, feeling the pressure building. He had never been good at making choices, especially when the decision affected so many people. But now, he had to choose between two worlds, the one he had always known and the one that had opened up to him unexpectedly. "I don't know," he admitted. "I'm torn. Part of me wants to go back home where things are familiar, but another part of me—" He stopped, his voice trailing off. He wasn't sure how to finish the thought. Could he leave Zaretha, her children, and this world behind? Could he really return to the chaos of Earth after everything he had experienced here? Zaretha stepped closer, her hand reaching out to touch his arm. "Elias, you don't have to choose between us and your world. You don't have to choose between me and your duties. You can have both if that's what you want." Elias looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity there. He had never been one to accept the idea of having it all. But Zaretha seemed to believe it was possible. "I can't promise you that everything will be easy," she continued, her voice low. "But I can promise you that we'll face it together. You've already proven yourself as a protector. But I think you can be more than that. I think you can be a part of my world, Elias. I want you here, not just as a soldier, but as someone who belongs." The words hit him like a wave, and for the first time, Elias felt the weight of the decision lift. He had spent so much time thinking about his duty, about what he was supposed to do. But now Zaretha was offering him something else, a future with her, with the children, and with a people who had accepted him, even if they were different from his own kind. Elias took a deep breath, his decision slowly coming into focus. "I don't know if I can leave everything behind," he said, his voice quiet but sure. "But I think I need to try. I think I need to stay, Zaretha." Her eyes lit up, a smile breaking across her face. It was the first time Elias had seen her smile so freely, and it made his heart swell with something he couldn't quite describe. "I'm glad," she said softly. You don't have to give up everything, Elias. You can be a part of this world, but you'll always have a place in mine. And in that moment, Elias realized that he wasn't just staying for the children, or for Zaretha, or for the galaxy. He was staying for himself. He had found something he didn't even know he was looking for, a place where he belonged. Elias took Zaretha's hand, feeling the warmth of it against his own. He had made his decision, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like he was where he was supposed to be.